Do you know why it took me so long to upload this video even though you've been asking me for it almost every day for more than 2 months? Look, Bento Oreo. It's a season that I really loved. But unlike with Dew, I dedicated an entire video to that part since I noticed there was a widespread sense of rejection to this season. Specifically, I felt almost obligated to give my point of view and try to show that Dew, despite its shortcomings, is just as worthy as any other season of JoJo. What I mean is that if not, I uploaded a video about this part once I finished it more than a month ago. It was simply because I realized that I didn't have anything interesting to add. I mean, yes, I love the season, but there's nothing to criticize or defend about it. I agree with the majority opinion of the fandom about this part, but there is definitely something that I found fascinating in this part. Something I find interesting enough to make a video about. It's, without a doubt, our dear and precious Jioruno. But before talking about Jioruno, I have gathered some details, both positive and negative, about this part, which I want to mention without going too deep into each of them. We'll come back to Jioruno later. He's so cute, my little blonde mafioso. First, let me share what I liked most. The first thing is that this is the part where we finally get real fan service, the kind we JoJo fans like. Nah, just kidding. Clearly there was some juicy drama here, but that's another topic. Jokes aside, personally, I've never been attracted to gangster stories, mafia plots, or things like that. It's not that I think it's a bad theme for creating a fictional story. Not at all. It's just that it's never caught my attention. Everything about Passione has made this type of plot much more appealing and full of potential to me. Something that I found fascinating and that I've noticed not many people point out. It's that this is the part of JoJo where the most values and principles are tried to be instilled in the viewer. For example, determination and how it develops is discussed often, especially early in the series. Bruno talks the most about determination in the series and eventually passes these ideals onto young Jioruno. I won't go into detail as the concept of determination is handled sublimely, even showing its practical uses. Also, other valuable lessons. I like the idea that everyone has a destiny, and even if youth leads us astray or off course, we still fulfill the destiny meant for us. Destiny is subjective and open to interpretation, so belief in it varies. But certainly, if you're already a certain age, you'll realize that this phrase is largely true. The other one is by far my favorite. It says that if you have a goal or objective and you decide to focus only on achieving it, without caring about your loved ones or the journey to the goal, but only caring about the final objective, that will cause you to take shortcuts that will end up making you lose motivation and your performance will decline. And that's something I've been able to see at times, both in myself and in the people around me. And finally, of course, I love that so much attention is given to individual dreams. In this case, to Jioruno's, although sometimes he exaggerates a bit with the spam. Now let's discuss what I didn't like as much. This is important. It's not that the things I'm going to mention are especially negative or anything like that. Not at all. They're just little details that personally didn't quite fit for me. Honestly, I don't think there's anything here worth criticizing. Well, the first thing is that all the past of the main cast seemed extremely similar to me. You either had bad parents, lost them, or had none. I understand that Araki's idea was to make it clear that people who join the mafia don't do it because one day they wake up and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a mobster." It'll be fun to be with a sexy blonde guy, his discreet-looking friends, and fight against a guy who controls things. Yeah, Giorno. Let me suck your dick, damn it. But they end up becoming criminals in most cases because it's their only way out. But I feel that even though it did manage to give that feeling, it didn't make the past feel unique, and honestly, they seem a bit forgettable to me. For example, I disliked including Dr. Pedoro and the other repulsive guy. It happened after Doppio entered the scene, since to me it just felt like filler. And I was wishing every damn second that they would just finish off those idiots already. To get back to the topic we already had well established, which was everything about Doppio and Diabolo. Thank God it didn't last too long, and the guys weren't completely bad villains either, but they just seemed totally unnecessary to me. Now we're really getting started. What I liked the least by far about the whole part was, without a doubt, Narancia's death. I won't discuss the topic, but it felt unnecessary and very anticlimactic to me. It's one of those deaths that I don't understand. Of course, it's also true that I'm not a fan of killing characters out of context. I prefer some background, even if it only minimally impacts the plot. like Abakio's death, for example. But in the case of Narancia's death, it felt to me like Araki killed him just for the sake of killing him, nothing more. And I think it's a very crude and unimaginative way to add drama to a work. Let's move on to the second part of the video. So, why did Giorno choose this title and thumbnail? Giorno is the most interesting character here, in my opinion. By far, at least in terms of concept and the interpretation of his ideology. I'll explain it to you in a moment. Bruno Bucciarati and Diavolo are fine, but I don't find them as interesting as characters, especially Diavolo. But Doppio had one of the biggest plot twists I've ever seen in the world of anime. And I'm not exaggerating, but anyway, that's something for another video. Jioruno's concept is fascinating as his very existence is an abomination. What do I mean by this? Well, to begin with, Jioruno, as we know, is the son of both Dio Brando and Jonathan Joestar, thus creating a mix of both of their DNA. Please, let's not turn this into a disturbing fanfic, please. The point of all this is that, taking into account that, so to speak, the Joestar family is a cursed bloodline determined to stop Dio at all costs, and thus stop him from achieving his destiny to rule the world. Finding a Joestar who has Dio's blood running partly through his veins makes his very existence an anomaly that shouldn't exist. From my perspective, this is why Jioruno always moves and acts along that fine line. What distinguishes a good person from a psychopath? This results from the paradox of his existence, combining the most honorable and most detestable lineages. He always finds ways to justify murder or bad actions, saying it's for a greater good or that the person deserved it, or something similar. Clearly, that makes Jioruno the yo-yo anti-hero, because he follows his own ideals, regardless of what is socially accepted. Besides, he sees himself as a good person, someone who seeks a just goal, which is to get those disgusting and harmful substances off the streets. This is evident in his stand gold experience. This stand is capable of giving life to inanimate objects and can even use anything, like a stone, to transform it into living tissue. So he can even replace a damaged organ directly by creating a new one. Anyone might think that this is a very noble and kind stand, which is true. The stand physically represents the soul, reflecting Giorno's soul, specifically his Joestar, or good side. But what about Gold Experience Requiem? First, we can see a very aggressive change in its physical appearance, going from a stand with a very friendly and almost cute look, to something that, honestly, is pretty scary and could be anyone's sleep paralysis monster. The worst part is its new powers, losing the noble abilities to grant life. Requiem's powers are terrifying, and I think I'm understating it. Not only is it absurdly powerful within the power scale of this part and even the previous ones, but also Diabolo's ending demonstrates the sinister nature of this stand. It doesn't seem like a direct evolution of Gold Experience, it's as if it was replaced. If we go back to the main idea that stands are the physical representation of the soul, at this point, Giorno's soul must have been something very sinister. Unfortunately, we have little information about the Requiems, but we still have enough to infer that the Requiem usually responds to a need of the user. Like what happened in the case of Polnareff. Wishing intensely that no one would get the arrow, that desire was again passed to Silver Chariot. What I mean by all this is that Gold Experience Requiem is definitely the Brando part of Giorno, fully unleashed, a power capable of dominating the world. This is where his connection to Dio, his father, appears. Everyone was lucky that Giorno only wanted to lead Passione and clean up Italy's streets. Because if he had wanted to take over the world, you can bet your ass he would have done it. Remember, this has been my personal perception and deduction about Giorno, and it's completely normal if you don't agree with me even 1%. But it's undeniable that my points make sense, based on what's shown in the anime. I really like to ponder and overthink these kinds of topics. Sometimes you get mad at me for making up stories, but I can't help it. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on my social media like Instagram and Twitter. Please, pretty please. Remember, we're otakus on this channel, but we shower and have social lives. And I'll see you in the next videos. See you next time.